I started writing for children by setting up my own company, by writing a play and then forming the company so that I could take the play out there. I'd had a drama school and acting background myself, and I'm also a trained teacher. I did a teacher training course, and I did teach for 5 years with the infant age range. After teaching and after acting, I decided that I wanted to have my own theatre company. So I wrote a play, I suppose choosing my first play on something that interested me, which was health. And there was a Theatre and Education Council for Health at that time. So I chose a play with a health interest theme issue, and I wrote the play, and then I booked my first tour, which was 6 weeks in schools in Surrey, and formed the theatre company, hired the van, and sort of started off from there. From that tour of 6 weeks, I went on to repeat the play for another 6 weeks the following year, and to write a new play. And from that start, I have written a new play every year for Piper, and we're now coming up to 30 years.
As a writer, when you're sort of looking at what your play you're going to write this year, is it primarily coming from what interests you, or is it coming from what the schools are saying, or is it you just sort of take what's the burning issue at this moment, or how do you make those decisions as a writer?
Right, I think it's usually what interests me, and quite a lot of my plays have been completely original, just an idea that has come and a play is created. I've done a few plays, I would say maybe inspired by books rather than adapted. I think I prefer to think of having looked at a book, being inspired to create a play from it. And then I think more the education pack that goes with the play, or occasional themes have come from research. But I tend to perhaps more choose a subject and then do the research around it with children, with parents and with teachers, because of part of our work being going into schools and schools coming into theatres, and part being family audiences. For the first time ever, the play that I'm planning has come from the problem of touring right through the winter. So, because we start rehearsing in October and we tour right through until March, beginning of March. So it's through that winter season. We're having problems with probably theatres more than any other, theatres and art centres, wanting something seasonal. And so we are going to do a play called Robin's Winter Adventure for that reason. But I think it's the only year, and it's maybe a sign of the times, it's a sign of the recession that we're in now, the fact that things are quite difficult now, that I actually changed my idea from one theme to another theme, to give it a slight seasonal feel. For the first time over the last 2 years, 2 completely original plays haven't sold as well as they might have done in the past. The bulk of the work has been completely new writing, not necessarily from a tale or from a book, but having over the last 2 years experienced a drop in audience numbers in venues, I've made that choice because otherwise we might lose our venues. I think because we've had such support from schools, we have 100% return on our evaluation forms, so we work really closely with the schools that we go to, and the bulk of schools do welcome, they trust us that whatever we do they will book. And then there'll be a very small percentage that will particularly like something that's been inspired by a book or something that's come from, say, Aesop's Fable. It's more the standard of the writing, the standard of the direction, actors, music, education, in fact, the whole picture, which again, that relates to my producing hat, that actually makes them want to keep booking year after year.
How do you get into sort of knowing how to pitch the right sort of storyline, the right language, the right images, the right sort of tone and temper of a play?
Yes, to make sure that children really understand what I'm writing about, I do quite a lot of workshops in schools. So I'll have a theme, and then I'll go into schools and I'll do a workshop with the children where we'll explore a little bit that I might have written already, and the children will read it. So they'll actually read the words that I've written, and then they will tell me if there's something that they would phrase in a different way. Once the play's written, I'll do readings in school, and I'll say, is there anything you don't understand? Or, but I might leave some things in that can be explored, perhaps a word that can then be explained later on, or that will become obvious. So it's not, I don't just remove words that they wouldn't maybe use, providing they do get the understanding of the word. Right. The last few years I've been working with Brendan Murray as my dramaturg, and it's a really useful relationship, probably a relationship that I wouldn't want to not have now, having started off as a writer not having a dramaturg and then had one for quite a few years now. I think the most useful thing for me with Brendan is that I live in quite a cosy world, and Brendan will uncosy it for me. Thinking about the theme of whether the producing work, being a producer, takes over my writer's head, I would say that there's three parts there. There's writer and director and producer. And when I first started Pied Piper, I wrote, I acted, I produced, I wrote the music, I designed the set. So I really did everything. Yeah. And then over the years, those roles have been taken by other people. So that there was quite a change over the years, and we've had larger creative teams as the years have gone on. So that in My Big Little Sister, I wrote the play, Lawrence Evans directed it, James Lynns-Roberts designed it, Graham de Fresney composed and MD'd it, and Angela Gasparetta did the movement in the play, and then Nicholas Angster did the education. So, huge creative team. Always my directing head is there when I write. I cannot help that. It's always...
Even when you're not directing?
Even when I'm not directing. The directing head is there. The producing head... yes, I would be thinking, I suppose, definitely along the lines of what the audience would like, because if I write something that's not suitable for an audience, then I haven't got a play to tour. Over the last, coming up to 30 years, there have been a few plays that haven't quite hit it right with the age range. I produced Dan Fine's Diary of a Killer Cat. That was more Key Stage 2 than Key Stage 1. He looked at death, and a lot of Key Stage 1 teachers thought it was more suitable for Key Stage 2. And then Mike Kenny wrote Great Grants, Great Games last year, and that was more suitable for Key Stage 2. So having for a long time not had the criticism of it being more Key Stage 2, because Diary of a Killer Cat and Charlie and the Chimney Tops, because it was about the Victorian play, was about a little climbing boy. Those were some time ago, and I'd been merrily going along getting it right every year, and last year I didn't with Great Grounds, Great Games. It was more suitable for Key Stage 2. It is a very important thing to get it right for the age range. So the theme has to be right, the language has to be right. Well, I think with writing to children, probably the first question a writer might ask themselves is why do they want to write for children? And then how would they establish a relationship to make sure that they're giving the audience what the audience would enjoy, learn from, explore, challenge. So knowing the age range would be a good start. Either maybe friends and family who would have children within that age range, to talk to them, to see what interests them, inspires them, what excites them, to be able to build a relationship with a local school, which I think is quite possible to do. You don't have to have been into schools like I have, but to just start a relationship by going along to a local school and asking them if they could be an artist in residence for a while, to observe children in the playground. What are the sort of games that they're playing? What interests them enough to play those games? And then to look at the different characters. Would there be something in the play, a character in the play that a boy would identify with, and a character in the play that a girl would identify with? That's quite important for the children to have role models within the play that they might like to go and improvise around afterwards, because children often go out into the playground and they become those characters and they play the play afterwards. So I think a writer could immerse herself in a school for a while, and then obviously if they're writing, they've got to think, well, who might direct their play? So they might want to look at the children's theatre companies that are out there at the moment to see whether they might be interested. Go and see their work and think whether that's the sort of work they want to write in that way, or whether they've got their own ideas and how they marry in with other people's ideas and other theatre companies. So who's out there at the moment? Well, I'm always looking for people that I want to work with. And sometimes it's as simple as just having similar ideas with that person. I met a poet recently, Joseph Coelho, who is an established poet, and we happened to just meet at a conference at the Unicorn Theatre. And there was a play on for us to watch after the conference. So we both went and watched it. We sat together. We'd been chatting. And we both felt the same about the play that we were watching. So then we started asking each other questions. Well, what would you have done differently? What do you think writing should be like for this age range? What are the themes that interest you, etc.? And this has culminated in Robin's Winter Adventure. We started on another theme, and then we came to this theme. We started meeting up, and we're going to co-write the play, which will obviously have quite a lot of poetry in it, and also perhaps I'll be looking at writing a play in a more lyrical way, as some of it might be in rhyme, but it will be very different. And then we're going to direct it together using Brendan as a dramaturg director. There aren't director-turgs, but I think there could be.
I like that.
Could be. It's just, all these turgs are outside eyes, aren't they?
All these turgs.
Outside eyes that said, hang on a minute, why are you doing? Why are you doing that? So I think look for who you might want to work with. Look at that creative team. Who might be good to direct, but who might be thinking in a similar way. So top tips for somebody wanting to write.
Either as a writer or as a writer-producer.
Or as writer-producer for children. Yes, look for who you want to work with. Who do you get on with? Who has similar ideas to you that you feel you you can work with. And in doing that, maybe immerse yourself in that world. Go to perhaps some conferences where there would be people there that you can meet. See work for children. Talk to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody and anybody, talk to them to find like-minded people. Get the age range right that you're writing for, because if you don't succeed with that play.